Well, I'm happy to be making this recording, and I want to welcome Sam Ray, who is here. So, during all of this time of quarantine with COVID-19, many things have been shutting down, and we've been adapting to new realities. But for Sam, while he's been continuing to finish up his senior year at Catholic High using the distance learning formats they have there, he has also been completing his application to become a seminarian for the Diocese of Little Rock. And so as of this week, he is now our newest seminarian and a member of Christ the King Parish. And so I wanted to use this method of introducing Sam to all of the parishioners at Christ the King who don't already know him. Since we can't introduce him in person like we might have done on our weekend masses, we'll use this format, and that way we'll be able to begin praying for him along with our other seminarians. This is a particular joy for me. Most of the priests and seminarians that have come from Christ the King were kids, little kids in the school when I was the associate pastor at Christ the King. And so now I get to be pastor of a seminarian for the first time, a new seminarian for the first time here with Sam. And so I want to thank you, Sam, for taking a little time to help us introduce you to the parish. And so we're just going to do a little kind of interview here, and I'll ask you some questions, and you can fill people in on who you are, and hopefully from this point they get to know you and include you in their prayers for the seminarians that we have in our ongoing work for vocations. So we're thrilled that it continues to bear fruit, and pray that as you begin this journey now, that God will guide you, and that the support of your parish family at Christ the King will be a strength for you. So knowing that you've been here, I think your whole life, and that you've been active in various ways through our parish, I want to start introducing you with a little trip down memory lane, so to speak. So let's look back at your years at Christ the King School. So what can you tell me? What memories stand out to you from your years of growing up through Christ the King School?
So I started Christ the King in pre-K and then went all the way up to 8th grade. And I don't know, I tried to be really involved, and I think I was. It was good to made a lot of really good friends there, a lot of close friends. They brought me close to my faith for sure. Probably my favorite memories, though, happened Mr. Jafria. I was in the band and in the choir, and especially in band, I played the French horn, so I sat next to the trumpets, and the trumpets were always crazy, and I don't know, there were some very good memories there. And then Deacon Harnetti's class, 7th and 8th grade, we'd pray in the chapel some days, and that was just a powerful experience. That was my first introduction to the Eucharist. The physical body and praying in front of adoration. And that experience that spoke to me, and he would have us pray and write and reflect, and that kind of was the beginning of my real spiritual life. And so definitely from Christ the King, that helped to plant the seed for my spiritual life.
Yeah, great. Seeds that were growing in ways you wouldn't have imagined, I guess, yet back then.
Yes, sir.
You weren't picturing seminary already back then in your junior high religion classes?
I thought about it. When I was in the 2nd grade, they gave us those little wristbands that say pray for vocations, and I wore mine for probably about a year. I don't know why. My dad just yelled longer than that from the back. So I don't know. Yeah, I wore that for a while.
Okay.
And I was into it for a while, but I guess it kind of faded away and then came back in high school.
So God was tapping you on the shoulder all along there, huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, so after your years of experience there with Christ the King School, I know you went on to Catholic High, but you also stayed connected with Christ the King through our youth groups. And in the short time I've been here, I've seen you helping out and involved in the youth group. So what would you say was your funniest memory of CYM experience?
Funniest? Probably, last year, all the youth leadership people, we go with 8th graders to Branson on their trip to introduce them to what CYM will be like next year. And so on the way back this year, it was maybe 10 o'clock, and we were on the bus right outside of Harrison. So it was right on the border of Arkansas and Missouri, and the bus broke down, or one of the 2 buses broke down. So they loaded all these kids up on one bus, and they left, and then all the and a few adults stayed. And so we sat in this parking lot for like 3 hours waiting for a bus to come. And I mean, we definitely bonded. It was us and Father Twin. It was really fun. And
Okay.
So we sang some songs and we had a good time.
Oh, that's great then. So, so as you've developed in CYM, I guess you've grown into more of a leadership role then. So how do you see kind of yourself maturing through your involvement in CYM?
I definitely feel, we have life nights. We really look in depth at some topic and then we split into small groups and talk about it. And whenever we split into those small groups, I feel like that's the time when God is calling me the most to, to be pastoral and to guide other people. But I also feel that that's one of the greatest times that he speaks to me through other people. And so, I get to hear what other people have to say, even though we may be on different spiritual levels, like their experiences are different than mine. And so what they have to say really speaks to me. And I hope and pray that what I have to say speaks to them as well.
Well, that's fantastic because, not only are you, kind of being set up and seeds being planted for ministry in the future, in his vocations, we talk about what your future ministry will be, but it's also a reminder that God doesn't wait to use you until some point in the future, that at every stage in your life, you already can be an instrument in God's hands. And so the potential of youth, the work of youth in the parish is not for what you might become one day, but for what you are now and the ways that God works through you to touch the lives of people he cares about deeply even now. So it's fantastic that you were cooperating with that and seeing that work of God already playing out in your life. Now, I think one of your other primary ways of being involved at Christ the King Parish was through scouting, right? So why don't you share with us some of your memories about scouting?
Oh, we crossed over in the 5th grade. And so we'd go on these campouts, there'd be 40 guys or sometimes maybe almost 50 when I was younger. And all these guys from 5th grade to seniors in high school. And I mean, I thought the world of those guys. I had looked up to them and they were my role models, And so now that I'm older and I have the opportunity to be the role model to someone that young, who's still really starting to form an identity and become themselves. And I can set those, the 12 points of the Scout Law. I can try and live them out as best as I can. Those are great experiences. And then summer camp, oh man, that was fun too. Summer camp was great, especially with those older guys. They made Scouts the way it was. And so I encourage young guys to join Scouting.
Oh, that's great. So connections you made there, hopefully will continue to develop throughout your life, and certainly the kind of things you've been involved in will give you interests and ways of connecting with people, hopefully as a priest, God willing, one day, in all these different connections. So recently, your official signing into the seminary happened at a mostly empty gym at Catholic High. I know that's been a tradition for a while to have new seminarians or the seniors from Catholic High who go into the seminary have their signing day. So from the camera, it looked pretty much the same. You there sitting with your parents, the bishop reading the letter, signing you up, but it was a little different without all of the bleachers in the gym filled with your fellow students. But I noticed that one of the comments you made was that you were in those bleachers a couple of years ago when 2 other seniors were signing on, and you commented in the video for your signing that your thought at that time was, well, they're wasting their life. There's no way that that's a good choice that they're making. And 2 short years later, here you are. So tell us about what kind of changed in your mind from thinking that was a bad idea 2 years ago to actually standing up there and doing it yourself now.
I think, over those past 2 years, I've definitely grown. I had more of a closed mind and a closed heart then. And I don't remember when it was, but there was some moment when I realized, well, my excuse back then was, I like girls too much to ever want to become a priest. And so somewhere along that path, I realized that God loves us too much for us to say we like girls too much. We have to be able to at least open our hearts and consider that maybe our vocation is to do something else than like girls too much. And so that's really, I kind of realized that, and that started to speak to me, and then I kept thinking about it, and then Father Patrick Friend reached out to me, and that's kind of when the real discernment began. And so it was really just the process of me opening my heart to the potential of what God's will could be, and so now I'm here.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. So I'm glad to hear you not only had those thoughts beginning in your head, but you had some guidance, and Father Patrick Friend was part of that. I presume you probably spoke with Monsignor Friend along the way, as he's the one that carries you through the application process. So I think it's a testament as well to say you begin to recognize these things within you, and then you allow the voices of trusted people, of guides in the faith, to help you. And it sounds to me like that experience of receiving that guidance is similar to the kind of guidance you've hoped to give to people through experiences in CYM, and the kind of experiences that as your own maturity grows, you'll be able to offer to other people as well. So that's fantastic. Now, why don't you describe for everybody then what comes next? So you're officially a seminarian now. The plans are in place for you to begin school next year. So why don't you tell everybody where you're going to be, and kind of what the next couple years should look like if all goes as planned.
There's a good problem right now in Little Rock, and that's that there's too many seminarians for the house formation. So I'll be sent to San Antonio at Assumption Seminary, and I'll study at Mexican American Catholic College, and then I'll take general courses at University of Incarnate Word, excuse me. So I think there will be maybe 11 of the seminarians from Little Rock that are going to be in San Antonio next year. I'll be there with Chris Elser and Daniel Wendell from Christ the King also. So I'm really excited.
Okay, great. Have you been to San Antonio before?
I have. Monsignor sent me down, I think it was November, and so I got to go see the seminary, and we spent a night downtown, and that was really fun.
Yeah, it's a great place to be. Well, that should be fun then. And I guess maybe Christ the King people, if they find themselves in San Antonio, they can come look you guys up at the seminary and then join y'all for prayer or something.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. Well, so then, the process of seminary includes 4 years of college where you have a lot of emphasis in philosophy that you'll be studying, all of which will take place in San Antonio, God willing. And then after graduation from there, the next decisions will be made 4 years from now about where to go on to study theology. So over the course of the next 8 years, a lot of the growth that's already started in you is gonna keep developing, hopefully. And as you remain open to God's will and discern his plan for your life, if that keeps you on the same course, then about 8 years from now or so, you'd be ordained a priest. And so certainly beginning seminary comes with various images about what priesthood would look like. So at this beginning stage for you, as you imagine that possibility, what do you look forward to? What kind of things as a priest would you hope to be able to do one day?
I think what draws me closest to the priesthood, or what I look forward to the most, is probably, the ability to become a spiritual father, especially to younger people. I think the world of my spiritual fathers, of those guys who have guided me and helped me to develop my faith, and help to grow the seed or even plant the seed.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if I have the opportunity to do that to someone else and to help them grow and get to know their ultimate spiritual father, then I think that's what God is calling me to do.
Well, that's fantastic. So, well, we're committing our prayerful resources to you. Add you to our list of people that we're praying for, and to know God's will and hopefully to serve his people. I have no doubt that you will serve God in many ways over the next years and in your future. And God willing, you'll be able to serve his people at the altar as a priest here in the diocese. So the last thing I want to ask you is a question I think everybody's considering, wrestling with as part of our current life as you sign up in the seminary in this time of COVID-19. So I'm curious, kind of your experience as a high school senior, as someone taking steps in stranger times than normal. As you look over the course of these weeks and COVID-19, your senior year, I'm curious if there's any kind of silver lining that you've seen. Has there been anything that you've enjoyed because of having the extra time and the disruption in schedule because of COVID-19?
Definitely, all the extracurricular activities were canceled or ended, and so that freed up a lot of time for everyone. So I've wasted a lot of time, but I've also spent a lot of time doing good things. I've been running a lot more. I played my guitar, but spiritually, before I would like go to the chapel, and I had a schedule. I had times when I would go, and it was always times that would fit like in between other chunks of time that I had occupied with activities or even school. And so now that I don't have any of that stuff, I've found that I'm able to invite God in my day more freely. And I'm just okay with saying, God, help me do this right now. And so that's definitely something I want to take back, outside of COVIDic time. And I can, invite the Lord into my day all day rather than just at different times of the day.
Well, that's great. And, you already can give lessons to people because part of our struggle with uncertainty is how do we recognize God in the midst of these things? And so even that little bit that you're sharing with us is encouraging, I think, and can help us all pay closer attention to what God is doing and not get caught up in what we are missing out on because of this. So again, know of our prayers for you and my prayer for you as your pastor. And we look forward to seeing where things go for you. And as you head off to San Antonio, we'll look forward to the times that you can come back and join us at Christ the King again. So God bless you and go with our prayers.
Thank you, Father.
All right. Thank you.